Surveillance video shows the moment masked offenders yanked an ATM out of a gas station using an SUV just before 5 o'clock this morning.
A theft in progress at the Marathon, 2800 West 55th Street.
Before sunrise on Chicago's South Side, surveillance cameras outside a gas station near 71st Street and Damon Avenue captured a black SUV backing toward the entrance, while several masked offenders moved quickly across the parking lot. Within seconds, straps were attached to an ATM positioned inside the store. The vehicle accelerated, tearing the machine away from its base and dragging it through the entrance. Debris scattered across the floor as the group pulled the ATM outside and disappeared before officers arrived. The theft became the first confirmed robbery in a series of incidents that unfolded across the city within a matter of hours. The attack happened while ATM thefts continued affecting businesses throughout Chicago. Gas stations remained common targets because many locations operated overnight and relied on cash machines placed close to entrances. Owners often opened stores before dawn to prepare for commuter traffic, and overnight clerks usually worked alone behind reinforced counters while monitoring fuel pumps and registers. Most locations depended on surveillance systems and police response rather than on-site security personnel. Before the robberies began that morning, operations at the affected stations appeared routine, with employees handling customers and preparing for the start of the day. After the first theft, the owner of the gas station near 71st and Damon documented the destruction left behind. Photographs showed extensive damage around the entrance, where the ATM had been pulled from the business. The machine itself was no longer at the location when officers examined the scene. Investigators began reviewing surveillance footage to determine how many offenders participated and what vehicle had been used during the operation. At that stage, authorities had not publicly connected the incident to any additional robberies, and officers continued gathering information from witnesses and nearby cameras.
A theft in progress at the Marathon, 2800 West 55th Street.
It's a black Jeep SRT. There's no plates on it. This vehicle has been involved in multiple ATM thefts.
Roughly 2 hours later, another gas station became the focus of a police response. At a Marathon station near 55th Street and South California Avenue, a group of masked offenders arrived in a black SUV while the business remained open. Unlike the earlier theft, the ATM was not immediately removed from the store. Surveillance cameras inside the station recorded the offenders attempting to pry the machine open while the clerk stayed behind the counter and called police. The effort continued for several minutes as the offenders worked around the ATM without gaining access to the cash compartment. During the call, dispatchers broadcast details about a theft in progress at the Marathon station on West 55th Street. Officers responding to the scene were also informed that the black Jeep SRT involved in the incident had reportedly been connected to multiple ATM thefts. Before police entered the business, the offenders abandoned their attempt to open the machine and ran from the store. Patrol units arriving outside encountered the SUV as it left the area, triggering a pursuit through city streets. As officers followed the vehicle, the situation escalated near 31st Street and Michigan Avenue. Police said the offenders crashed into another vehicle during the chase. The collision immediately changed the pace of the pursuit, as officers moved to secure the crash scene and prevent the suspects from escaping on foot. 3 people were arrested near the location shortly after the crash. Authorities believe the arrests had effectively ended the pursuit until another development unfolded nearby, involving a law enforcement vehicle. According to police radio transmissions and statements from authorities, a 4th offender managed to enter a Cook County Sheriff's vehicle after the crash. The suspect drove away from the scene in the stolen squad car while officers reorganized and resumed the pursuit. The incident expanded the investigation beyond the original ATM theft reports and brought multiple agencies into the search. Chicago police officers, Cook County Sheriff's deputies, and Illinois State Police all became involved as the stolen vehicle traveled onto the Dan Ryan Expressway. The chase continued for miles along the expressway, while officers coordinated efforts to stop the fleeing suspect. Video from the pursuit showed law enforcement personnel deploying what appeared to be spike strips across lanes of traffic. The tactic forced the vehicle to slow, and eventually come to a stop north of 79th Street on the Dan Ryan. Officers then moved in and arrested the suspect without any additional escape attempt. Radio traffic later confirmed that the fourth offender was in custody following the highway pursuit. Authorities later reported that a Cook County Sheriff's deputy sustained minor injuries connected to the incident and received treatment. By the end of the operation, 4 people had been taken into custody in relation to the morning's events. Investigators continued examining surveillance footage, witness accounts, and evidence collected from both gas stations and the crash scene. Despite similarities between the robberies and the pursuit, police said they were not yet able to confirm whether the incidents were connected to the same group responsible for multiple ATM thefts across Chicago. Investigators also examined the sequence of events separating the first theft from the second attempted robbery. The timing suggested the offenders moved across different parts of the South Side within a short period while using the same vehicle during multiple incidents. Surveillance footage from both locations became central to the investigation because the offenders concealed their identities with masks throughout the operations. Detectives reviewed the recordings frame by frame to compare clothing, movements, and the number of people involved at each scene. Authorities also worked to determine whether the SUV used during the robberies had been reported stolen before the incidents occurred. The attempted theft at the Marathon station differed from the earlier robbery because the ATM remained inside the store when police arrived. That distinction allowed investigators to examine the machine directly for damage and possible evidence left behind during the failed effort. Officers also interviewed the clerk, who stayed inside the business during the confrontation and continued communicating with dispatchers while the offenders tried to force the machine open. Investigators did not immediately release additional information about charges, recovered cash, or whether any stolen ATM contents were located afterward by authorities.